Episode 9 is set to end the Skywalker saga and the sequel trilogy itself by writer and director J.J. Abrams and Chris Terrio. This is Mike Zero. If you guys are new to the channel, do make sure to subscribe to see future Star Wars content. Now, one thing that a lot of people are really looking forward to seeing in this movie is exactly what J.J. Abrams is going to do with Rey, Kylo Ren, and yes, even the Knights of Ren in this story. Now, these past couple of weeks or so, we've been learning a whole lot more about this film when it comes to some of the set leaks, the set designs, the concept art and storyboard descriptions, etc. One of which has all to do with Kylo Ren and the Dark Apprentice. Specifically, a description of Kylo Ren inside of his throne room with a Knight of Ren kneeling in front of him. It's described that Kylo is rewarding a lightsaber to the masked knight that is said to be the lead Knight of Ren. The lightsaber that Kylo hands to this knight is described as the lightsaber of the Dark Apprentice, which was Snoke's apprentice before he manipulated Kylo to the dark side of the Force. The saber design of the Dark Apprentice is said to be silver with a gold ring on top and has a crimson blade and is considered stable. It's described that Kylo discovered the saber in between the events of The Last Jedi and Episode 9. Snoke's apprentice is assumed dead, as Kylo also owns the cloak of the Dark Apprentice and grants it to the lead Knight of Ren, while it's folded in his hands. It's described that the Knights are going on a personal mission for Kylo. It's implied that Kylo's lead Knight of Ren is dubbed as the Dark Apprentice, as this one in particular is Force sensitive. So I want to go over a couple of parts about all of this because everything is really starting to take shape with this movie, and we can really see how a lot of the dots are beginning to connect right now with Episode 9. So first things first, we do know that eventually the Knights of Ren in this story actually do go on a personal mission to the Beyond and eventually come back to Kylo Ren and report on their mission and what they experienced about this new threat that's coming into play. So I want to go over the Dark Apprentice. What's really intriguing about all of this is that we do know that in canon, Snoke at least had one other apprentice before Kylo, and a lot of people have been wanting to know exactly who he is or who he was at the time. If you guys read The Last Jedi novelization, you do learn a little bit about Snoke and his backstory and how he had another apprentice before Ben Solo, and you can really see where everything is really going with this movie. Now, the thing that's really intriguing is how Kylo discovered the lightsaber of the Dark Apprentice in between the events of course, The Last Jedi and Episode 9, which is roughly one whole year in between the two movies right then and there in the sequel trilogy. The other thing is that Snoke owns, or should I say Kylo owns, the actual cloak of the Dark Apprentice, which basically tells us that most likely the Dark Apprentice is dead. Now, a lot of people have been, reading the novelization of The Last Jedi in order to get more clues about Snoke and his backstory and his thoughts about Kylo Ren. If you guys read the novelization, you do in fact learn that Snoke actually thought about killing Kylo Ren during the events of Episode 8. I don't know if you guys knew this, but Snoke actually had that thought about killing him and replacing him with Rey. That was a thought that ran through Snoke's head at one point in time. So I think that pretty much tells us that Snoke killed the Dark Apprentice, or his apprentice, if you will, before the events of the sequel trilogy. Now, the next thing that I do want to go over is, of course, how it's described that Kylo actually is giving the cloak of the Dark Apprentice to one of the Knights of Ren that is considered to be the lead Knight of Ren. Now, a lot of people are trying to figure out who the lead Knight of Ren is going to be in this movie. Is it Matt Smith? Is it Kerry Russell? We're not quite sure as of right now. I'm leaning toward Matt Smith being the lead Knight of Ren because we do know that J.J. Abrams actually cast Matt Smith for a key role in this movie, and I believe that Kerry Russell, there's a possibility that she's either a Knight of Ren, a bounty hunter, or something around those lines in this movie. Now, the other thing that I do want to go over is how we also know that JJ is tapping into Snoke's backstory slightly in this movie here and there as well when it comes to his actual apprentice, and we will be learning a little bit more about him, when it comes to his lightsaber and the cloak that will be handed down to the lead Knight of Ren. So It seems as though that JJ is creating his own version of Kylo, having an apprentice of his own, where it's not necessarily like the apprentice that we do see in the prequels, and of course in the originals, and partially in the sequel trilogy. Now we're getting something different where his apprentice is going to be dubbed the Dark Apprentice, a term that was actually used for Snoke's apprentice before Kylo Ren became Snoke's. And you can really see how JJ is really trying to keep that, you know, whole master and apprentice side of things intact within the sequel trilogy, but on a different way, in a unique way that's actually going to set it apart from, of course, Snoke and Kylo, Darth Vader and Palpatine, Darth Vader and Maul. You get the drill, right? So let me know what you guys think about this and the Dark Apprentice, his lightsaber, his cloak, being handed down to one of the Knights of Ren. Not only does this tie into one of the concepts of The Force Awakens, where at least 2 Knights of Ren, I believe it was 2 to 3, at least had lightsabers on their belts. And now that the Knights are indeed back in Episode 9, this would fully explain as to why the lead Knight of Ren has a lightsaber that once belonged to Snoke's apprentice before his death or before he disappeared, before the events of the sequel trilogy. Anyways guys, drop a comment below, let me know what you think about all of this in the comments, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, do make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.